When I first moved into Maplewood Estates, I thought I'd found peace. The neighborhood had neat lawns, trimmed hedges, and that suburban hum of quiet contentment. The house next door was identical to mine, white siding, gray shutters, perfect symmetry. That's where Karen lived. On my first morning, she appeared at the fence like a character from a sitcom, holding a mug that said, "Good vibes only." She smiled, that tight, polite kind of smile that never reaches the eyes. "Hi there, neighbor. I'm Karen," she said brightly. "We're neighbors, so be nice, okay?" I laughed, a little uneasy. Of course. I'm always nice. But Karen wasn't looking for kindness. She was looking for control. By the third day, she'd already knocked on my door 3 times. Once to tell me my trash bins were placed 2 inches over the property line. Once to complain that my dog barked at inappropriate hours. It was 6:30 p.m. And once to suggest I use a quieter brand of lawn mower. I tried to stay polite. I even apologized once or twice. But when she started measuring where my car's tires touched the curb, I decided it was time for a boundary conversation, literally and figuratively. So when she marched over one Saturday morning, clipboard in hand, saying, "Your tree branches are leaning into my airspace," I finally looked her square in the eye and said, "Respect starts with rules." Her smile faltered. "Excuse me. You said we're neighbors, and I should be nice." "I agree. But kindness doesn't mean letting someone walk over you. Respect goes both ways. I'll keep my branches trimmed, but you'll stop policing my property." Her lips pressed together, her voice dropping to that condescending calm people use when they're losing control. "You know, people who move into this neighborhood usually try to fit in." "I don't fit into unreasonable," I said simply. The silence hung heavy between us. Just the sound of the wind brushing through the maple leaves, half hers, half mine. That was the first crack in the facade of Maplewood harmony. From that day on, Karen didn't bring muffins or wave from the mailbox. Instead, she started watching. I'd catch her blinds twitch when I took the trash out. See her shadow in the yard when I watered the garden. It was a quiet war, but a war nonetheless. And though I'd drawn my line, I had no idea how far she'd go to cross it. It started with a letter. A plain white envelope, slipped under my door, with the Maplewood Estates HOA seal stamped across the top. Inside, a typed notice, violation number 172, non-compliant fence height. I stared at it, incredulous. My fence hadn't changed since I moved in. But I knew who had filed the complaint. I walked outside, letter in hand. Karen was pretending to prune her hydrangeas, eyes flicking toward me every few seconds. "Morning," I said. "You wouldn't happen to know anything about this?" She looked up, feigning surprise. "Oh, that. Well, I did mention it at the last HOA meeting. It's not personal. Just community standards." "Karen," I said evenly, "you do realize this fence has been here since the original build, right?" She shrugged. "Maybe yours sank an inch or 2 over time. Measurements matter." That's when I realized she wasn't just meddling, she was strategic. Every complaint was a calculated move to assert dominance. So I fought back, not with anger, but with precision. I measured the fence myself, checked the county regulations, and found the exact clause in the HOA charter that validated my dimensions. I brought my evidence to the next HOA meeting, printed in triplicate. When the chair read my documentation aloud, the room filled with quiet amusement. "Looks like this fence is entirely compliant," he concluded. Karen's cheeks flushed crimson. She didn't speak for the rest of the meeting. But she wasn't done. 2 days later, my sprinkler system mysteriously malfunctioned, every nozzle twisted backward. Then came the trash pickup issue. Somehow, my bins were tipped over every week, contents strewn across the curb. Coincidence? Maybe. But I knew better. I started keeping a camera by the window, one of those motion detecting types. I didn't even need to review the footage to feel the tension building. Every morning, I'd catch that flicker of movement, Karen pacing the border, measuring tape in hand, lips pursed in silent judgment. I didn't hate her. I pitied her. Her world was so small that power came from petty victories. But still, people like that can make small worlds suffocating. So I wrote her a note, slipped it under her door, polite and direct. Karen, I'm not your enemy. But if you keep trying to start a war, I'll defend my peace. Respect starts with rules, and I'll follow every one. That night, her porch light stayed on until dawn. When the HOA meeting embarrassment didn't stop me, Karen escalated. I woke one morning to find a new addition to her yard, a security camera. Mounted on her porch, pointed directly at my driveway. It wasn't subtle. The blinking red light faced me like an accusation. I walked over, calm as ever. Karen, your camera's aimed at my property. That's not allowed. She smiled sweetly. Public view, darling. Driveways count as public. I sighed. Actually, they don't. I'll give you 24 hours to adjust it before I contact the HOA. Her smirk faltered. You wouldn't. Try me. She didn't move it. So I installed my own, 1, then 2, then 3. Every corner of my yard now gleamed with little blinking eyes. The neighborhood started whispering. People began calling us the surveillance neighbors. The mailman started walking faster past our houses. Kids crossed the street when they biked by. The tension was thick enough to touch. A week later, I caught something on my footage, Karen sneaking into my yard at night. Flashlight in hand, clipping one of my garden lights. She didn't damage it. Just repositioned it slightly, like she wanted to remind me she could. I didn't confront her right away. I waited until the next morning. When she was out watering her lawn in her pristine floral gloves. Karen, I said, stepping to the fence, you were in my yard last night. Her eyes widened. What? No, I wasn't. I held up my phone, showing the video. Her face paled. That's trespassing, I said quietly. I could file a report. But I won't, if you stop. For once, she had no words. Just a nod, stiff and small. For a few weeks, things were calm. She stopped complaining, stopped watching, at least, openly. But sometimes, when I took the trash out at night, I'd feel that same prickle on the back of my neck. Like I still followed me from behind drawn curtains. Peace returned, but it felt temporary, fragile, a glass dome waiting to crack. And then, one rainy evening, I found something wedged in my mailbox. A note scrawled in messy handwriting. You think rules protect you. But neighbors see everything. No signature. But I didn't need one. I started double-checking locks, keeping my porch light on. What had begun as petty neighborhood rivalry now felt like a psychological chess match, and Karen was playing for something more than pride. One night, around midnight, I heard a crash outside. I rushed to the window, my trash bins were overturned again. But this time one was burning. The flames flickered low, licking at the asphalt. I grabbed the hose, doused it, heart pounding. Then I saw movement, a figure in a raincoat darting back toward Karen's house. I called the police. They came quickly, asked questions, inspected the remains of the scorched bin. They knocked on Karen's door. She answered, sleepy-eyed and innocent, claiming she'd been in bed the whole time. No evidence, no arrest. Just tension thickening like fog. The next morning, I walked the property line, determined to end it once and for all. Karen came out, robe tied too tight, voice sharp. You called the cops on me. I called the cops on a fire, I said flatly. If you were involved, that's on you. She stepped closer. You don't belong here. People like you ruin communities. People like me. I asked, incredulous. She sneered. People who think rules matter more than relationships. That's when it hit me. To her, neighbor meant obedience. Compliance. Quiet acceptance of her control. To me, I said softly, rules are respect. They keep us safe from people who don't understand boundaries. Her eyes flashed. You'll regret this. But the next day, she got the letter, from the HOA this time. A violation for surveillance equipment pointed at a private residence. Someone must have reported it. Not me, though. It was the chair himself. Turns out, other neighbors had grown tired of her too. Complaints piled up: noise, interference, trespassing. By the end of the month, Karen's house had a "for sale" sign planted in front. When the moving van finally pulled away, I stood on my porch and watched the taillights vanish down the street. The air felt lighter. A new couple moved in weeks later, quiet, friendly, unintrusive. On their first day, they waved and said, "We're your new neighbors. Hope we'll get along." I smiled. As long as we respect each other's space, we'll be just fine. Because in the end, peace isn't just the absence of conflict. It's the presence of boundaries, and the courage to enforce them.